Today we are going to read Chapter 5, Two Unexpected Visitors, from the book Heidi, written by Joanna Speary. A winter passed, and then another summer, and Heidi's second winter on the mountain was nearly over. She was now 7 and had learned many useful things from her grandfather. She visited Peter's mother and granny every week and had come to love both women very much. Heidi felt content and peaceful in her mountain home. Twice during the winter, Peter had brought up messages from the schoolmaster in Dorfli to say that Uncle Alp must send Heidi to school. But the old man refused to answer the notes and told Peter that he had no intention of sending Heidi to school. One March morning, just when the sun began to melt the snow on the slopes, Heidi saw an old man standing outside the hut. He was dressed in black and looked very solemn. He looked at her and said, "Don't be afraid of me. I'm fond of children. Come and shake hands. You must be Heidi. And where is your grandfather?" "He's indoors making wooden spoons," she told him and showed him in. He was the old pastor from Dorfli, who had been a neighbor of Uncle Alp's when he had lived there. He came to tell Uncle Alp that it was time that Heidi went to school. But the old man insisted that Heidi would be better off living on the mountain and learning and growing with the birds and the animals instead of going off to school where she might learn bad ways. But the pastor insisted that Uncle Alp return to the village so that Heidi would be able to begin school in the winter. Uncle Alp shook the pastor's hand but said slowly, "I know what you mean about the child going to school, but I can do what you ask. That's final. I won't send her to school or come back to the village to live." The pastor shook his head sadly and walked slowly down the hill. All this left Uncle Alp in a bad mood, and he hardly said a word to Heidi all day. The next morning, while the old man was still in his bad mood, there came a knock at the door. This time it was Detie. She was wearing a hat with a feather and a long dress which swept the ground as she walked. Uncle Alp looked her up and down in silence. "How well Heidi looks," she said. "I hardly recognize her. Of course, I have been meaning to come back for her. But for 2 years, I have been just so busy, I haven't had a chance to return." Then Diti went on to explain that all the time she had been away, she was looking for a proper home for Heidi. Now, she had finally found one. There was a rich family who lived in the city. They had a young daughter who was paralyzed and had to spend all her time sitting in a wheelchair. The girl was very lonely, and the family had been looking for a playmate and companion for her. So, Diti immediately thought of Heidi and came straight away to bring her back to the city. The old man said that he wouldn't part with the child, but that did not stop Diti. She became quite angry with Uncle Alp and told him how she had heard in the village about his refusal to send Heidi to school. She threatened to take him to court if she was stopped from taking Heidi with her. The old man got very angry. "That's enough," he thundered. "Take her then and spoil her, but don't ever bring her back to me. I don't want to see her with a feather in her hat or hear her talk to me as you have done today. Then he strode away. Heidi looked very unhappy and went to run after the old man. Detie grabbed her and told her to pack her clothes and prepare to leave. Heidi refused. But Detie told the child that the old man wanted her to leave for the city. When Heidi still refused to go, Detie promised her that she could buy a nice present for Granny and return to the mountain whenever she wanted to. This sounded better to Heidi, and she daydreamed about surprising Granny with some soft white rolls from the city. The end. Soon we'll be back with Chapter 6 A New Life Begins. Until then, take care.